The stories shared on the Busy Baddies are submitted by real listeners and are intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. To protect the privacy of everyone involved, all names, companies, and identifying details have been changed or omitted. Any resemblance to real people or events are purely coincidental. We believe in keeping it real while keeping it respectful. Thank you for sharing your experiences and for trusting us to spill the tea with care. This isn't about busy work, it's about power, proximity, and what really happens behind the scenes. Welcome to the Busy Baddies, where assistants speak freely, boundaries get tested, and professionalism meets real life. I'm Michelle, EA to a Fortune 150 female CEO breaking glass ceilings. And I'm Mel, former C suite EA, well, who's seen it all. And in season 2, we're saying things you've only ever said to your work bestie. We're bringing bigger stories, bolder takes, and the real talk that keeps this community thriving. Hey baddies, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Busy Baddies.
Yeah, how's everybody doing? Ready for spring? Ready for the crazy up and down temps and the Easter and all that good stuff that's coming?
All the things that point towards summer.
Right. I woke up yesterday with a sore throat and I was like, it's just par for the course this time of year. Like the up and down temps. So if you hear me clearing my throat and being annoying, that would be why. It is just the weather. So but yeah, we got a fun topic today, talking about how to level up with your stakeholder. So
yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this topic. I think obviously when you think of how to level up with your stakeholder, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Especially for those supporting C-suite, because I certainly understand the incredible spot that we're in and the things that we have visibility to, and watching the best of the best coach their teams and lead our company. It's certainly a very unique place that I don't take for granted.
It is. And I remember, gosh, it's probably been 10 years ago, I was at an admin conference and I remember someone saying, to be effective, you have to manage your leader. And I was thinking, if I'm working for a CEO, like, how the hell am I going to manage?
What can I do?
Yeah, but it was like, I never thought about it as we actually do manage them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And don't really get credit. But to your point, not only do we manage them, but we learn how to be leaders.
Yeah. And certainly even in a group setting, just being able to be on the sidelines, kind of observing the room. And, we talked about that on a topic before of just like being a fly on the wall and watching these people, how they interact, going through conflict, all of the things. And then, to think at the end of the day, they're also just people.
Yeah. They're like grocery shop cook, parent, children, all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. So, understanding their world.
Oh, so important.
So, I mean, I think as, you newer admins with a leader, let's just say, I mean, my personal experience, my leader at the time when I joined her was in engineering.
Okay.
So obviously I'm not an engineer.
Right.
And so,
I never would want to learn that world.
Yes, exactly. So, this understanding their world was really like a foreign language to me. I mean, I don't think like an engineer. I certainly didn't pass the math classes to even understand a lot of the stuff. And, our company is an engine manufacturer.
Yeah.
So not only was she an engineer and a mechanical engineer, I mean, we're
technically making a product that I know nothing about.
Agreed. Same.
So when I got, the job and just started getting access to her emails and the meetings that she was having, I felt so much like a fish out of water and really started to doubt myself of how in the heck am I going to help an engineer be an engineer?
Yep.
I mean, it was a little overwhelming at first.
Well, and how much more well-rounded are you now that you've been with a leader who's moved through several different positions in the company in the time that you've been with her? Like, talk about a advantage and just a blessing, because I think about all the different areas of the business that you have got to see and how it runs.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I think we take for granted, especially if we progress with leaders that, say, like, I know when I started with my last leader, she was a general counsel, never worked for an attorney before, but I got to learn a lot about legal and attorneys and their personalities and how in-house counsel works and all of that. And then she went to CAO, which had several mixed bag of facets of the business that came to aviation, facilities, communications and marketing, product compliance, regulatory, it was just a whole mixed bag of all these things. And it was like, what a awesome thing to be able to be involved in all those sides of the business.
Yeah. And I think, when you join a leader, I mean, we certainly don't know, like, where they're going to end up. Like, you just get in the mindset of, okay, well, like, all right, we're in this engineering function and that's where we're going to be. I mean, it wasn't even crossing my mind of, like, crossing over into a business role or whatever. And then obviously moving up to CEO was like not on my bingo card at all. And so, going back 13 years, I mean, I would have never, ever thought that we would be here.
No.
And so I can tell you for a fact, of day one of me in the role,
never saw this.
Yeah, never saw it. And I would have never thought in a million years that I would have been capable of supporting a CEO.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the wildest part of it all, that, had I known this was going to be the path, like, I certainly don't think I would have been, like, put my name in the hat for that.
No, but I think it's a good point to call out, because it also speaks to how agile we are and how we can flex. We can support an engineer. We can support an attorney. We can support someone who goes to CTO, to CEO, it's because none of those areas are ever the same.
Yeah.
Unless they transfer kind of in the same wheelhouse. But, and I think that's where we're almost, like, to your point, of sponges. Like, we just soak it in. We be what we need to be. We need to. So I'm super excited about this topic about just leveling up and how to manage up maybe to your stakeholder. But, I think understanding their role deeply is extremely important. And to that point, I have often said too, your work plans or your boss's success should be dependent on what their business priorities are. So understanding what's in their goal tree, what is top of mind for them, making the schedule mimic that, making the, whatever it is that they're trying to get to the end goal for the end of the year, that should be where you get your playbook from.
Oh yeah, it should absolutely complement it. It should support it.
Yep.
It should help execute like all your work plan for your leader. I mean, it should almost be the what, the how, and the when.
Yep.
Like, they have the high level goals, what they're responsible for. And then I think as, an EA, it's our job to make sure that by the end of the year, whatever the deadline is for that, like, we are responsible for making sure that we're complementing all of those things.
Yeah. And when you encounter difficult people who want to gobble up time or, want to interject. I need this. I need regular touch points. Okay, but is it moving towards what their business priorities are? That is your pushback opportunity. And I think a lot of EAs miss the mark on that because they're not thinking strategically. They're thinking of it as a calendar slot. But does that slot help move forward the priorities of the person that I'm supporting?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So also, building on that, we have understanding pressure points, know their communication style.
Yep.
And I think that kind of feeds into both of what we said of your work plan should be mimicking and making sure that pushes the needle.
Yeah.
And when you think of communication style and pressure points, I mean, that's only skills and tools to help your leader.
Yep.
Being able to, like you said, as a sponge, noticing it and then figuring out what you need to do quickly as an action item to kind of flip that. If you're noticing it's a bad day, your leader's getting stressed, something happened maybe outside of work that you can tell is affecting their daily, how they bring themselves to work. And it's our job to kind of notice that and pivot and help them through that. And, I think we've said also in this role, we're counselors, we're therapists, we're emotional support humans. I think all of those kind of feed in that, understand their world.
Yeah. And I think being emotionally intelligent is very helpful with the pressure points and even the communication style, because there's some people who are not good at outwardly communicating and maybe will signal to you what they're feeling or what they want by acting a certain way. Or so again, I think that we've touched on several of these in previous episodes too, of what would be helpful to get there, but I agree with that. And thinking through, you hear the word chief of staff thrown around a lot. And there's some people who think EAs and chief of staffs are interchangeable. I do see the differentiation in both of the roles. But I think you are only going to get better if you do think like a chief of staff.
Absolutely.
Because the chief of staff is like the strategic, which we're strategic too, don't get me wrong. But I think thinking through the anticipation of, and I've said this oftentimes as well, never come to your leader with a problem that you don't already have a solution half-baked for. And to me, that's something that a chief of staff would do. And that's you leveling up for your leader on top of that.
Oh, yeah, without a question. I mean, even if you are raising something with the calendar, a meeting, you absolutely better have a different suggestion, a different plan.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have noticed or, because we're looking out a lot farther than our leaders, obviously. And this just happened actually the other week. I was way out into October.
Yeah.
We were looking at some other events, and when you agree to do something,
obviously
you're doing that with your calendar in mind at the time.
Yep,
okay,
absolutely right.
So there was an event that my leader had certainly said, yes, that sounds great, I can make that work if it works with the calendar. Yes, let's say yes. Said yes. And then obviously, a month down the road, something that is kind of, let's just say, holds more precedence of said event that, they had accepted in the past. And so I was looking at it and I had to raise it because I was like, at the time, this looked really good. You could make it work. And now we have more data or something else has come in. And, I had to flag it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just hey, I don't know that this is going to work. Like, you have to come with, if you want to do it, like, here's
what's going to sacrifice.
Here's what it's going to look like. And trust me, I've worked with you long enough to know, like, that's going to be a stressor.
Yep.
And heading into like earnings, which was that weekend before, I was like, I already can see the mind space you're going to be in. And, you know, like earnings is one of the most important things, obviously, as a CEO. And so having to raise that, you have to be anticipating,
you do.
Not waiting like, I can ignore it until we get to October.
Right.
But supporting a CEO, like you can't just let things like that slide. And so, you know, thinking like a chief of staff, you know, that's just real time stuff that happens.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes to the next point that I had written down, which was connecting the dots. You know what I mean? And it's like, so to me, that's a prime example of where you were like, okay, yes, we committed to this, but I also see the correlation. I can see into the future. I know what the emotional behavior is going to be in that time frame. This is problematic. And even connecting dots across silos, which help your execs see the patterns that may be in what different teams are saying. Because I think a lot of times that is a very blind spot for a leader.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, leaders can't know everything happening everywhere.
No.
And so that is a big piece of our role of, you know, kind of being, you know, an ear to the wall, so to speak, of kind of looking out throughout the whole business and the whole org of bringing that full picture to reality. Because oftentimes depending on, you know, let's just keep earnings going. I mean, when, you know, my boss is in the earnings zone, like it's almost tunnel vision at a point, because like that's what is the main focus. And so at that time, they're not worried what's happening over here in left field, because they have a batter in the box.
Yep.
So I think that's a big part of our role.
Yep. Agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's see. Another one, managing relationships. This is a big one. And I don't know, as a chief of staff, I see them having a different relationship with stakeholders because we're so close to other stakeholders like EAs, but you know, just being, even if it's internal or external, I think it's really important that you accurately represent your leader. And,
always,
you know, in the ways that you treat people, the way that you make people feel important. And, you know, just thinking ahead of like, cause I know there's several stakeholders that I've had to work with previous bosses that I still remain in contact with their EAs.
Yeah.
Years and years later, which is crazy. But I think it goes to show the deep meaning behind having those relationships and just being human with each other.
No question. I mean, especially in any company, to where like, you know, you're a leader and then you're working with the same leader of, you know, whatever customer, supplier, business partner. I mean, you understand the role, right? So you can immediately connect on that playing field of, we both understand, we know what the job is, we know the demands, we know the tight schedule, and it instantly allows that connection for us and our equivalent, you know, outside of companies. And when I think of like what a chief of staff would kind of do, is the same sense of what we do, just there. And I can speak for what our chief of staff does, and it's kind of like doing the prep work, right? So they're doing the stuff on the back end of getting more info, asking the right questions. Like, is there a problem that, you know, you're going to raise? And so we're ready to come to the meeting with the right prep and intel, if you will. And so as an EA, if you're thinking like a chief of staff, you know, that's only going to give you an edge up.
Absolutely. And it's a natural career progression. And I think the story that you told about you and the other EA who planned the internship day, like that's a prime example of managing relationships. You had clearly set a great relationship with that CEO's admin in order to put the thought together of, I know exactly who I'm going to call. It's going to go beautifully, and look at how great it worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a prime example.
Yeah. I mean, and that's great. And at the time, when you're building these relationships, you're not doing it with any intention at all.
I'm going to ask for something in the future.
But it's a good little.
It's a good to have.
It's a good to have. You never know what.
Never know.
Yeah, I mean, and that can happen out of nowhere.
Agreed.
And so, when my boss, she'll be talking to our company admins here in April for Professional Administrative Day.
Yeah.
And that's always something that she kind of shares with the group of, you are a arm of us, right? Like, we don't ever want our admins kind of misrepresenting like how we would be in real life as leaders. And that's always stuck with me. Like, the last thing I want is my boss to get a call because I was rude to somebody's admin and not putting my best foot forward. Not that I would do that, but sometimes you have bad days. You never know.
Exactly.
But just knowing that first impression means everything.
It does. Yes. Yeah, that's all really good points.
Okay, so this next
set of it's tough. This is gonna hurt a little bit.
It's a sticky situation.
We could ramble on about this for quite some time, but I think it's also very important to touch on.
Yeah.
So what is it?
It's feedback.
Yeah, this is tough because it's hard. You're thinking, this is the boss. They manage big people. They're important.
Yeah, who the hell am I to tell
me? Yeah. But it's like that. The one friend that you want to have that will tell you everything that you need to know,
like you
but
have
don't
a
want to
booger
hear.
in your nose type thing. Yeah, you're just like staring at it, and you're like, oh, I don't want to embarrass them.
You're like, but I like, it's an obligation that you have.
It is, and as EAs, we are their partner.
Yes.
And I think as long as you are, you have that in mind first, and that it's always coming from an authentic, respectful place.
Agree.
Let them have it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is the important factor, is that you have to see yourself as an equal partner. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle with it, is because they feel that this role is less than, and that their input is not going to matter, when, trust me, your leader wants to know what is going to hurt them, their reputation, their image in the organization. So I think even if it's something silly of, that meeting felt awkward, I think that we really could have did that in 30 minutes instead of an hour, or it can be little things that you start out with to build that comfort. But I think it's very important that you do critique when you see things are wrong.
Yeah, and I've always thought of it as, if I'm thinking it, somebody else 100%, is thinking about it.
That's a great way to think about it.
And especially as, you're building that relationship. I mean, we're not saying that, you get out of a meeting and
you're like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, you're right. Or you just like hit them with 5 shitty things
Wish
that
I
they
said
just
that
did. Yeah. Ease in. Like, that was really productive. You want to give them, you want to hype them up.
Yeah.
But then you also want to help them grow.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is just being open and honest. And look, nobody, I think, between an admin and their leader, I think that relationship is so just
sacred,
rare, and in raw form. And I think they will understand where it's coming from. I don't think any leader would just automatically go to, you're trying to embarrass them or any of those things.
No.
But I think it's so important, especially you're the one that's around them the most. And so if anybody can help them get better, or, just tweak something, like not changing what they're doing or who they are, but just to be able to know that you're sitting in that audience watching them and knowing that you only have their best in mind and at heart. Like, there's power in that.
There is. And it makes me think of, these are people that are surrounded by yes people all the time, and people who will never tell them what they need to know. And I think that's where we have a very unique opportunity of leveling them up in the respect of helping them see themselves as a person and not as a leader. And I think that's where it's, you just have to be really intentional, because you have to look at it as, I'm protecting their reputation. That is one of my core job values, is to protect your reputation. And if I see something, I have to say something. Obviously you want to do it behind closed doors. You want to be respectful, maybe even start out with a, hey, we were in this speech thing, just wanted to give you some feedback that I thought you might find helpful. If not, no big deal. And I have even had leaders, which makes me even more grateful, because it tells me that they get it, that would even come up after something and say, hey, how'd you think that went?
Yes. You took the words right out of my mouth. That if you do it and they're really like hearing you and respect what you're doing, they will seek it out.
Yep, they will.
I remember this was last year. We have a member on the team, obviously not my direct boss, but I support the whole leadership team. And I was noticing that in their town halls, or anytime they were addressing people in like an audience forum, like they would, and a question was directed to them, they would answer it. And at the end, they would always follow it with, does that make sense? And I'm like, so
stop saying that.
So I obviously at the end of it, and we were upstairs and done with it and everything, and I had to say something, because it was driving me crazy that, to me, it was insinuating like, you're not smart enough to understand what I just asked. So did that make sense?
Yeah.
And when it was happening after about every question that they were answering specifically, I was like, can you please think about not saying that? And I don't know if it was, their equivalent to or okay, or, how people just don't even realize they're saying it. But I was just, my God, after 10, I'm just stop asking people if it's okay and does that make sense? Because if you're in an audience, even if it didn't, are you really going to say, no, can you try again and explain it
in a way?
So to me, it just put the person asking the question in an awkward position. And I know it wasn't obviously intentional or anything, but I was like, it would be really nice if you kind of worked on just answering it and say, thanks for the question.
Because to me, if I was sitting in there and I was listening to that, I'd be like, okay, so I'm not smart enough. I'm not as smart as you to understand what you just said.
Right. Or, you know what I mean? How could I have asked that question? Because, did that make sense?
So no, that's a good call out, and that's a good point.
Because I didn't work I wasn't supporting them, so I can't say that we necessarily had this deep relationship for me to do it. But I'm just like, I have to.
But I bet they respect you now because you did speak up and say something.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and so thinking, gosh, there's so many little buckets to this. You know, I think we've hit on, the calendars being the priorities. That's very important. You and I have touched on this in a previous episode about tracking your impact. I think this is another really big way where you should definitely pay attention to the things that you would call wins, tracking that, even if, to Michelle's point, keeping it in a OneNote, putting it in a Word document, whatever it is, because they are not going to be there to see every single thing that you do that you would consider a win.
Yes, I mean, this is the toot your own horn section of, this. And because you're so right, like they are moving so fast, day to day, and it is very hard come, year-end review time
to remember,
to really be able to kind of plead your case of how great you are, what you do, because trust me, our leaders know how great we are, else we wouldn't have the jobs that we have.
Amen.
But that doesn't mean that we can't toot our own horn
100%.
And keep, record of, here's exactly what I did. And those are the not the daily tasks of being an admin, right? Like they know you're keeping calendars straight. They know you're,
if you're not,
they know that you're getting them where they need to go. We're talking about the other things that they do not have that visibility to, and let them know what you're doing. And I think it kind of goes into the elevate your presence.
Absolutely.
Show them what it is that you're doing, and show your value and what you bring to the table as their partner.
Yeah. And I think, speaking with confidence is a big one in the elevating your presence. And I think as well, if you're in a meeting and you sit in, staff and you don't even know maybe what someone is talking about, asking thoughtful questions is a very good way to get people's attention, because they are never going to expect for you to ask a thoughtful question. To me personally, and I know this probably sounds crazy, but I have been in meetings before where I know nothing, again, about the product that we make, how the sausage is made, don't care. But I can even sit and even like chat GPT, what would be a great question to ask on someone giving a presentation about X, Y, and Z? It'll usually spit out thoughtful questions if you struggle with what to ask. Right. So it's one of those ways, though, that but that's elevating your presence. There's nothing wrong with using something that knows more about a subject in order to get information and to make you look better. Leverage that.
No, absolutely. And I was going to say, I do not sit in our leadership meetings just because of what the topics do. But if you are an EA and you are able and lucky enough and have the privilege to sit in your leaders' staff meetings, use your seat, use your voice, contribute to the discussion. Like, do not just sit there and have them kind of keep you in the circle of you're just the admin and you're just there to capture action items or do this or do that or set up lunch. Yes, we're there to do all of those things also.
But you have a brain.
If your leader has invited you and feels that you are important enough to attend those meetings, contribute.
Agreed. I totally agree with you. And, I was guilty of that. And with other leaders that I've supported. And I think a lot of it was my own insecurities of feeling less than. But then I also had someone tell me, and it was really great information and feedback, was I want you to speak up in those meetings because what you say matters. Because you are representing a group of people who don't get to make it into those rooms.
Absolutely.
So what a privilege that you have, and you are obligated to use that platform to advocate for things that you see. Or those leaders may be presenting on a absolute terrible idea, And if you sit there quietly and know how it's going to affect your peers or other people in the organization, or how that could look negative where they're maybe not thinking down at that level, you're obligated to say something.
Oh, yes.
I mean, and and you're going to gain respect from people. And I know that this is another hard one, but No,
I think it matters. I mean, when you have a seat at that table, I mean, you have 10 other people that have come from a different walk of life, a different, career path. Like their ladder to the top is different than yours. And so I do think that if there is something that you feel like is really just kind of at the tip of your tongue and like, oh, I gotta say something because they're totally missing this or whatever, at the end of the day, like, we've earned that seat. We're no different. And yes, we may not have the fancy title or the big paycheck, but we do have our voice. And I think the others in the room will, like you said, notice that, respect that. If being an admin is just a start to your career, I mean, you're building that rapport with the team of, oh, like Melissa really knows what she's talking about and she's thinking. And I mean, that will all get noticed.
Yeah. And I always had the mindset of, we obviously as EAs think differently than other people. And I always had the hang up of, I am probably going to be stating the obvious.
Right.
But what my obvious is not obvious to a leader. And I remember we were in the middle of a presentation in one of the staff meetings, and they were talking about, giving an exemption to a certain type of mandatory training. And I remember in my head, I was like, well, if the word starts to get out that you're going to give an exemption to something, why wouldn't everybody just start doing exemptions? Like, you have to have, so
it was like, word always gets out.
Right. So I'm like, and to your point, like, I felt myself, I was like, oh my God, like, I have to say this or I'm literally going to explode. So I raised my hand and I said, in a lot of the pitfalls and kind of the risks that we're trying to identify, why is there not a threshold of completion that needs to be met before you implement the go ahead of, okay, you can have an exemption because you've hit 75% completion. They had never even thought about that.
Yeah.
So it's like what you think may be obvious, it's obvious to us because we think like that, but it's not going to be obvious to somebody else.
No.
So I think that is the biggest thing of empowering, of even though you feel like it's insignificant, stating the obvious, whatever it is, your obvious, your insignificant could be very impactful.
Absolutely.
So speak up.
Yeah, no, and that's a wonderful thing to end on as we kind of move into some reflection questions to ask yourself. So
always good to self-reflect.
Yeah. So am I reducing friction or adding to it?
That's a tough one, but that's a good question to ask.
I mean, sure. I think that can be very easily yep, nope, or I got to change that for sure.
It's tough to hold the mirror to yourself for sure. Do I know what success in parentheses looks like, in their eyes?
Yeah.
Do I really clearly understand what is success to them?
And if you don't, ask them.
Yes. There's another question to ask yourself. What does success look like?
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, no. And where can I offer perspective that might not get elsewhere? Or they might not get elsewhere?
Yep.
And I think we are in the best spot for that question.
Agreed. Yes.
So, just open the dialogue with your leader. I mean, these are also great things to even build a deeper relationship with your leader. Show them, like, I'm here to help you.
Yes.
And once your leader really understands and then sees that from you, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's a silly question like, how can I help you drive impact? How can I make your day-to-day easier? what's something that I can do that does X, Y, and Z? Like, just think of questions that maybe you guys only have like a surface relationship. You don't go very deep. You don't share a lot of things. I think asking questions is a great way, and it's hard for us because I am not a question asker. To me, in this role, we are paid to have the answers, figure it out. Don't circle back and don't be another person that I have to manage.
Yeah, don't add to the plate.
Right. Which again goes back to am I reducing friction or am I adding to it?
Yes.
If I'm asking 50 questions, it's going to look like you're pretty incapable.
Yeah.
But that is tough for us, I think, just on a surface level of even asking questions.
Yeah, and if your leader is kind of, let's say, leading a new something, right? I think reflection and check-in points are so important.
So much.
Because, they may be noticing it, but maybe not quite able to put their finger on it. But if, after the fact of, something, say, hey, how did we think that went?
Right.
Was there something that like, I wish I had that? And or even after a trip.
How did it go?
How did it go? Because we're not there.
Right.
Was there too much on the agenda? Right. Exactly. And, I think just even opening it up for that discussion will be a huge game changer for you.
Yeah, because we plan it. They have to execute it. So that's a very great point. We aren't the ones that are doing what we're scheduling and planning for them to do. And
it looks very different on paper 100%. When you're living, 4 days back to back somewhere, traveling.
Right.
So sit down, and it can be 10 minutes and just say, hey, let's quickly talk about how last week's trip went. What worked well, what didn't.
What would we do different next time?
Absolutely.
What could I have did better? What could, maybe we have planned different? So that's all great stuff. But yes, for sure. We are leaders in our own regard. I think that oftentimes we forget that, but you have to remember the power that you hold as the EA and, just level up any chance that you get the chance to. I think,
absolutely
ask the questions, understand things, get into their world. All the things that we kind of listed, to me, that's the best way to really level up and to only become more strategic.
And if we didn't touch on something,
drop in the comments.
If you got a secret to leveling up, share it with the baddies.
Exactly. Yes, be a baddie and pay it forward.
That's right. Well, have a good rest of your week, everybody, and we will catch you next week.
See you next time. That's it for us today, bringing order to corporate chaos.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that follow button.
Yours truly, Melissa
and Michelle,
the Busy Baddies.